Welcome to the Thrive Club Co podcast. This episode that you're about to listen to is from the archives before our rebrand to Thrive Club Co. But the message we delivered then is still aligned with our core mission and core message today. Enjoy. Welcome back, everyone. It's your girl Jordan here with episode 4, What They Never Told You About Motivation. It's Overrated. Today, we are kicking off strong. Motivation, discipline, consistency have all been big topics of conversation recently in my circle and other circles I've just been noticing around me and online. January is one of those interesting months where a lot of people start off going in hot with new goals for the new year. And oftentimes, as many of us see, they start to lose that steam, start to slow down. And when they came in hot, it just comes to a halt before we even get to February. Something I just heard of on January 10th of this year. I had never actually heard of it before, and I did some research on it, and I found it crazy and fascinating and scary at the same time. Did you know that the second Friday in January is called National Quitters Day? Yes, that is an actual day that is made and recognized. So it's the day that approximately 80% of people who set new goals for the new year quit them by only the second Friday of January. That's insane. That in a group of 10 people who all set goals for themselves in the new year, that within less than 14, days, however the calendar aligns, this year was January 10th, it's just that second Friday in January. So let's just say less than 2 weeks into the new year, that 8 out of 10 people in a room, they've already given up on themselves, or they've given up. They haven't necessarily pivoted to, I don't know if it's that they're pivoting to different goals. I think the entire idea behind National Quitters Day is that they quit their goal. And I'm sure there's some flex in there in terms of pivoting and whatnot. But I do think more often than not, we see a lot of people just stop and give up. Maybe because they went in too hot, or they solely relied on motivation, which leads me right into today's topic. Motivation is overrated. I've been saying this at the time of recording this. I feel like I've been talking about that weirdly enough, just for the past couple weeks here. And it's been in these little pockets of conversation popping up. And as I do my brainstorming and what I want to talk about each week with y'all on the podcast, I was like, you know what? This is kind of the perfect opportunity to talk about this between just the start of the new year, and there's obviously some type of energy circulating around motivation just being overrated. Motivation itself is an excellent tool. It's just not the complete picture. So we actually define motivation as, this is on just dictionary.com, but motivation is defined as the act or an instance of motivating or providing with a reason to act in a certain way. The state or condition of being motivated or having a strong reason to act or accomplish something that motivates. I think that last one's pretty obvious. Anyways, though, that's the definition of motivation. There are some days that you're super motivated and energetic to take on anything, right? Like those days where you wake up feeling super strong and just pumped and in that good mood, they're fantastic. Everyone has felt those once before at least, and they rock. And then there's other days that you are just not so motivated at all. And all of us have also experienced those days, and they are not as fun. So while motivation is great, I say it's overrated when it's looked at and utilized alone. And that's because motivation is nothing without discipline. So comparatively, we have also on dictionary.com, discipline is defined as training to act in accordance with rules, an activity, exercise, or regimen that develops or improves a skill. What else do we got here? The training effect of experience. Behavior in accord with rules of conduct. Behavior and order maintained by training and control. A set or system of rules and regulations. So on those days when life starts, quote unquote, lifing. We all know that. And challenges will come to you and do one of two things. They will, one, try to break you and derail you, or two, they make you dig deep and overcome those challenges with strength. The days where there is little life resistance happening, all things are smooth, it's naturally easier to be in a state of motivation. And then on days where challenges arise, naturally, it can feel impossible to feel motivated. That's partially because motivation is just that, it's a feeling. It can be fleeting when the sails turn the opposite direction at the drop of a hat. It's kind of two sides of the same coin, motivation and discipline. It's an interesting balance between the two. And in those moments of challenge and motivation just feels lost, or you can feel it when you start to have motivation dwindling from you. We've all experienced that. It's almost like a little energy drainage from your body, and you feel it happening slowly and slowly. You start to feel it dwindle, and you don't want to do what you need to do, or you don't want to do what you know you should do. That is where discipline comes into play. And consistency is the only way that neuroplasticity can actually work its magic in your brain and literally changes the wiring of those synapses and neurons to fire differently in the chemical makeup of your brain. Going back to episode 1, when I first touched base on neuroplasticity, the beauty of it is incredible how you truly can change your brain. That's what It's a Thrive is all about, of utilizing that tool in neuroscience that is already within all of us in our brains to do things like changing negative to positive habit formations and thought processing skills. For example, you can't just exercise really hard for 2 weeks, then you take a month off, and then you go back to working out super hard for 2 weeks, and then you take another month off, and you keep repeating that cycle. You can't do that and then expect changes to happen physically or even mentally, because it's not consistent enough. Consistency is a daily habit to show up for yourself, even when it feels hard. But that's one of the best things about feelings, is that they can change as you do, that you have the power to change them literally within you, within your mind and in your body. You're in control of that. And that's where discipline comes into play as an essential component alongside motivation. Discipline helps you overcome certain feelings. Discipline helps you dig deep and go that extra 10 or 20% that most of us are actually utilizing. I'm in the middle right now. I love reading. Actually, kind of funny on the topic that I'm thinking about it now of discipline and consistency. I was not a very good reader. My comprehension skills and my ability to actually focus and my attention span not be going from A to B to Z to back to A, back and forth, was very difficult for me to focus in on a page. Like, I would read a book and I would have to always read a page 4 times to focus and not have my mind wandering or really comprehend what I was reading. And I was embarrassed by that. I didn't like that. It made school and everything just very difficult, to the point where, like, I hated reading books at all. And now it's such a complete flip of a dime, because I love reading now. Actually, I am a big fan of reading, and I made myself fall in love with reading because I knew that I had to strengthen those comprehension skills and be able to break it down, of reading a page at my pace, learning what that was, and then truly just getting into the habit of reading. So for a long time, literally, I would only read 1 page a day, and that was it. And that was like, if I could do that, I was good. I met my goal for the day. And then it was 2 pages, and I literally like built that up slowly over the course of months at a time, and stayed consistent with it, to the point where that neuroplasticity came into effect, and my comprehension levels and my ability to stay focused on a paragraph and not have my mind wander, and be able to stay focused on what I'm reading, comprehend it, understand it, and continue on page after page after page. It was such an awesome feeling. And it sounds like something that I think is so taken for granted, being a good reader or not, whether you learn it in school or you kind of feel like you got left behind in that part in school. Like being an adult when I started doing that, like my mid later 20s, it was difficult, but it was so dope because I found a love for reading. So my point being to that is I also like audiobooks though too, for when I'm driving or traveling or commuting or whatnot. So if I'm not reading a physical book, love also having uh, a nice audiobook too. So I'm actually listening to David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, which is incredible. If you're not familiar with who David Goggins is, he is an incredibly worldwide, well-known Navy SEAL who has just come from such incredible adversity growing up, defied all obstacles and challenges in his life, and is so self-made and doesn't take no for an answer from others, but most importantly, doesn't take no as an answer from himself. And anyways, listening to his book right now, and he has a phrase, not to fully quote, but he talks about often, and in this book in particular, how when most of us feel like we're at our pushing point, like I'm done, I'm tapped out with whatever task is at hand, or with a workout or a challenge that pops up, and you're like, I'm done, I'm tapped out. That most of us aren't even at that approximately like 50% capacity where we have 50% more that we can actually dig deep and push forward to. Like you haven't even tapped into that deeper part where you still have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% more within you to go. You just haven't pushed it or unlocked it yet. And he has an incredible perspective on it because discipline does help you stay consistent enough. It's everything. And I'm definitely want to clarify that I'm not suggesting to not listen to your body, right? We have to listen to our bodies. For example, when we have the flu, it might be a good idea to pivot your routine as needed for your body to heal properly. Now, what I am saying though is our minds are a lot stronger than what we tend to believe. Because in our typical day to day, discipline is what helps us when the self doubts and fears become stronger than the voice in your mind, not the flu signaling to your body to rest. There is a huge difference there. And I think the term discipline in and of itself can sometimes have a negative connotation when in reality of what we're talking about right now, discipline is one of the highest forms of self-love. Big statement. That might sound crazy to you, but stay with me on this. Stay with me on this though. By staying disciplined enough for yourself means that you are showing up for yourself. You're showing up for your highest self. You are showing up for your lowest self. When no one else can show up for you, you can count on you. By staying disciplined enough for yourself, you are telling yourself and proving to yourself that you are worthy enough. By staying disciplined enough for yourself, you are proving to yourself that despite all odds, you are worthy, that you love yourself, and that you will not give up on yourself. So digging deep and embracing that discipline to show up for yourself no matter what and not let life get you down, let other people get you down or tear you down, to not let moments of anxiety derail or control you, that you are making the choice to again and again show up for yourselves. Well, that's the highest form of loving yourself, right? Because listen, we wake up to ourselves. We spend the entire day with ourselves. We go to bed with ourselves. We may be surrounded by people sometimes all the time. Families, children, partners, spouses, coworkers. Sometimes in instances, we are always around people. But the one thing that never changes is that you can't get away from yourself. You will always have yourself. You might be able to sometimes get away from other people, but you can never get away from yourself. You will always have yourself. And for some people, that scares the shit out of hearing it because being alone with your thoughts or being alone with yourself is terrifying because you don't want to come maybe face to face with them. From a higher perspective, though, it's liberating and freeing knowing that you will always have yourself to count on, to take care of yourself, to love yourself, to nourish yourself, to heal yourself. That is an empowering thing. That, for example, through a breakup and that pain that we have all felt, it is awful. Breakups suck. There's no way around it. They're painful. Even if the situation was a better situation to leave and break up in, or it still hurts. There's still feelings of pain and loneliness, despair, depression, uncertainty, unworthiness. We can pull ourselves out of that. You're never really alone because you always have yourself. And that stems into being such an important way to make sure that you do show up for yourself. So, an effective form of learning how to be disciplined, if you have a split feeling of, I don't want to do this, but I know I should, don't even give yourself 3 seconds to dive into why you don't want to. That is also so much easier said than done, because we might first go into that string of thoughts, but try to give yourself the most limited amount of time to think of all the reasons why you don't want to do this. If it will make you feel better to do something, despite not wanting to do it in the moment, dig deep for that first round and do it. Because in the beginning, it will feel foreign and it will feel harder. Because think back, how hard was it? Thinking back to the first time you ever exercised or that you tried a new workout. Or think back to your first foreign language class in school. How was that learning a new language at first? It was hard. You literally don't understand. You can't make sense of words to communicate. That's really challenging, right? Or think back to your most recent job where you started fresh. Beginnings are oftentimes the most difficult because it's normal when we don't know how to do something off the rip or have the system down to automate it ourselves. It's new and that's okay. Expect it to be a challenge and reward yourself for showing up for yourself even in the hard times. And take accountability for the good and the bad. Be accountable for when you show up for yourself and be accountable for when you don't show up for yourself. Be real and honest and accountable. And more importantly, don't let that derail you. Being accountable is the first step, and figuring out what to do better next time is the second step. And the third step is doing it. And you repeat that cycle again and again and again every day. Even if your pace is getting 0.5% better every day, that's not stagnancy. That is dynamic improvement moving forward. No matter the pace, you're making the choices for yourself to stay consistent and dedicated and disciplined for yourself. Now, time for a little transparency time for me and you. I got to ask, what is that thing that you're lacking motivation or discipline on that you think about daily and it bothers you, but you want to change it? Because this is a podcast, I'll go first for y'all. Mine has been my sleep schedule. Going to bed earlier and waking up earlier. This has been a challenge for me as my schedule has changed a little bit more recently in life, trying to manage to go to bed earlier. I kind of took certain steps like not being on my phone that much for social media, or if I do, it's a treat and it's not a doom scroll. And I gotta say, holy crap, that has helped so much and it's really freeing. And it's also a little challenging balancing that while running a business because you are on social media for that. So striking a balance between the two, but that's something that really helped me go to bed a little bit earlier or not do the first thing when I wake up is go on my phone. But falling to sleep a little bit earlier and waking up earlier has definitely been a challenging thing for me that I am working on. And that is one thing I am going at a slow pace. I am at that 0.5% better every day. And some days I don't meet it, in full honesty. At the time of recording this, just the other day, I slept in a little bit too much and I did not feel the best at all. But I was accountable for it. I chose what I did. I made my bed and I laid in it, metaphorically, right? But I was accountable for it. And I thought, okay, I got to have a better system in play. What can I do? Putting my phone on the opposite side of the room so that I just first thing I do, wake up, sit up, visualize myself before I go to bed, waking up at the time I want to wake up, manifesting that, which quick pin. Last year, did both of those things, and it was magical how it worked. I would literally visualize myself waking up early at the time and started waking up, and also just started putting my phone on the other side of the room. So when I heard my alarm, I had to get up. And the second I heard it, I would fight that first 3 seconds of, oh my gosh, I want to go back to sleep, or I did not get enough sleep, or oh my gosh, I'm so cozy right now. Nope, fight it and just get up. And it feels so much better. So that is a habit I am forming right now, because even though it's hard, and especially waking up in the mornings when you're not maybe fully awake, even mentally, having to dig deep in that discipline, it's a little challenging, but it's not impossible. And I know that it's worth it for me, and that's a goal of mine. And it also has to happen for my schedule. So implementing the practices, maintaining accountability, and being disciplined. So with that being said, I challenge you this week to make an accountability list of what motivates you the most, what circumstances frequently occur that can diminish your motivation, and how can you implement discipline alongside motivation to curb any possible derailment of your identified goals. It might be really interesting to see what you discover and what you find, and how you can have a plan of action and an accountability plan to balance motivation and discipline hand in hand to meet your goals, and to show up, more importantly, for yourself every single day. With all of that being said, though, today, thank you so much, everyone, for listening and tuning in. Remember, we do drop the new episode every single week. Subscribe to get notifications of when the newest episode is dropping. If you're not following us already on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook, please do so. Would love to hear any commentary and feedback that any of you have. We're so excited to have you here, and I'm very grateful and appreciative to every single person listening now. Until next time, remember, it's not just a vibe, it's a thrive. See you next time, y'all.